want to go back to the slump thing. So I'm
Yeah.
going to put you on the spot.
Okay.
And I want you to just tell me what you think a slump is. What is a slump?
Well,
Like, what does that mean?
I think a lot of people would just say you're not scoring goals,
Mm-hmm.
or whatever you're doing, what you think you do well is not happening. But I think the other side of it is that people really don't know what they do well. And a lot of times people take one negative and they call it a slump. So, okay, if you're Alex Ovechkin and you haven't scored in 10 games, you could assume you're having a slump because he's a goal scorer, right? And that's kind of maybe the easiest metric to measure what a slump is. But that doesn't necessarily mean you're in a slump. It's you're perceived. It's a mental thing, right?
Yeah.
It could be a team, right? You're in a slump. Well, why are you in a slump? What does that mean? You haven't won in 5 games. Well, if you've won the first 15 or 20, you lost 5, it's not really a slump. You're just in a stretch where you haven't won.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily negative.
Right. So
not negative.
You're taking this exactly what my point is. So
Yeah.
a lot of times what people do when they are deciding whether or not they're in a slump is they look at outcomes to determine whether or not it's a slump, right? So this is the same as judging whether or not you play well by the amount of points you get.
Yeah.
Right? It can be an indicator, but it's not always an indicator.
No.
You know, so if you're going to say that you're in a slump, the first thing I want to point out about it is understand why you're saying you're in a slump.
Yeah.
So if you're saying you're in a slump, like you said, because you didn't score in 5 games or 10 games or whatever, then you could be in a slump, but maybe you're not a goal scorer.
Yeah.
You know, maybe you're not the guy that's supposed to score. Or let's say you have a really hot start to the season. Like we had one kid who had like 9 goals in the first 5 games of the year or whatever. Yeah. And then he went a stretch without scoring. It's like, was he in a slump? Or maybe he just had a really good start.
That's exactly.
You know? So it's like,
exactly.
So be careful with identifying or associating slump with an outcome, like some kind of outcome-based metric, because the game changes. You know, sometimes you get good bounces, sometimes you don't get good bounces, whatever. And especially when you're young and you don't really have an identity as a player yet, it's hard to say like you're in a slump just because you're not scoring or whatever. So just and it could be that you're in a slump. I'm not saying it's not that, but I'm just saying be careful of always associating goals, points, or whatever metric, outcome-based metric you want to use as being a slump, because it might not be. And that's why I think it's really important, whether you're talking in terms of a slump or just your performance, that you use process-based metrics, not outcome-based metrics. So to your point, like you're saying before, if you feel like you're in a slump, then you want to ask the next question of why do you feel that way? So it's always why. Why am I saying that I'm in a slump?
Yeah.
So if you're a guy that should be scoring goals, let's say, even that you're a guy that's supposed to be scoring goals, then why are you not scoring the goals? So it's like, okay, am I getting shots? Am I getting pucks to the net? Yeah. Am I in the same places that I used to be when I was scoring goals? Yeah. And now, so like now we're shifting the focus. It's not just, am I putting the puck in the net? It's like, okay, maybe I'm not getting to the areas of the ice where I was earlier. Yeah. And whatever. Or like how you're saying about that one player, how I just feel like I'm not around the physical part as much. Yeah. It's like, okay, why are you not around the physical? Like, what's the reason? Why is that? You know, so when you're going to try to address this, go back to process-based things. So you were saying one thing we always talk about is have your 2, 3, 4 things that make you a very good player. Yeah. It's easy to use the power forward as the example because they have things that aren't scoring that you can focus on. Yeah. That's what makes using a power forward example easier. But even if you're not, even if you're a playmaker, or even if you're supposed to be a guy that's scoring the goals, or if you're a defenseman, it's like, am I getting my 2, 3 blocked shots a game? Yeah. Am I doing that? Yeah. If I'm not, why am I not doing that? Am I puck focused over here, and then so I can't flex out to where I'm supposed to be when they move it, or whatever it is? You know, so try to focus on those things that are more process driven, even if you think you're in a slump, because now you're going to go back to, like you said, go back to your basics. What are my 3, 4 things? If it's supposed to be finishing checks, if it's supposed to be getting shots on net, if it's supposed to be whatever. And maybe, I don't know what you think about this, because one thing I always think about for scoring goals is a lot of times, even just watching the scrimmage game we had the other night here, guys always want to get so close to the net.
Oh yeah. Wow. So close.
Yeah.
And they that's one thing for sure. But while you're getting close, you're taking away time, or you're increasing the time of the shot. So the element of surprise or the quickness is not there.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of times it's just on your stick and off, and you'd be surprised what happens.
Right. So I find like this might be the cycle of someone who is a goal scorer, let's say, is I'm not scoring goals. I'm going to try harder to push it to the net now.
Yeah.
And it's like, actually, maybe you need to, or to get to the net, sorry, to try to get to the net, I'm going to try harder. It's like, well, maybe you need to not focus so much on getting so close to the net. Maybe just throw everything at the net.
Yeah.
Like you get over the blue line, as soon as you have a lane, rip it.
Yeah.
Just start getting pucks to the net again, right? And see what happens that way.
Yeah.
Because I remember that even. It's like, I'm going to try extra hard to get to the goalie now to bury one. It's like, well, yeah, the closer you get, the harder everyone plays you.
Harder you play, the less room you have to make a mistake.
The more ready the goalie is, like all that kind of stuff.
The more perfect you have to be.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I wanted to just circle back on that. Make sure you're focusing before you say you're in a slump. Make sure the reason you're saying that is because of process things you're not doing properly. Because then you have something to fix, right?
Yeah.
If you say, well, I'm just not scoring, it's like, okay, how do you fix not scoring without identifying something process-wise you're not doing to score?
Yeah.
So it's like you have to make sure you're focused on the right thing before you just say, well, I'm in a slump, I'm not scoring, because then you don't have something that you can actually work towards fixing on the ice.
Yeah, it could be you got two guys playing hard against you instead of one.
Yeah.
Guys are playing hard against you because you are a guy that scores goals. It could be so many different things. That's why, like, I'm really, really, really huge on both players and teams having identities.
So important, man.
So important because if you don't actually know what you do well or perceive like that you do well, then it's really hard to fix anything or to measure if you had a good game. That's why it's very, very important. Like if I'm whatever type of player, it doesn't matter. There's a defensive, neutral zone, offensive. There's physical, passing, shooting, right? There's these things. And you got to take the things that you're the best at and just say, these are the 5 things I do well or that I need to do in a shift, right? You have your own that makes you play well. And then your team, that's why it's important to have a team identity so that you understand that you're fitting in, you're contributing to the team the right way.